Welcome to Uncharted: The Complete Story. Now, to celebrate the fact that we are doing Uncharted and that Uncharted 4 will eventually one day come out, we've handpicked out some Uncharted t-shirts for our TeePublic store. You can click the link down below in the description to go ahead and find that store and support our channel by picking them up. We really do appreciate everyone who goes ahead and buys a t-shirt, and don't forget, you can also follow us on Twitter at EligibleMonster if you want to talk about anything. Anyway, let's not waste any more of your time and let's move forward. Things begin with Nathan Drake being offered the opportunity to learn the location of Marco Polo's doomed voyage. In order to get this information, Nate has agreed to steal a Mongolian oil lamp that once belonged to Marco Polo, and it's currently in a museum where he has to go with his former partner Harry and his old girlfriend Chloe. Once they get to the lamp, they light it up and discover that it contains a blue resin that, once lit, will provide a map to the location of the shipwreck. And after Drake manages to get the map and return it to his new partners, he's double-crossed and imprisoned by Harry. Nate spends 3 months in prison until Chloe gets Sully to help get him out. And once out, Chloe and Sully actually explain that Harry was working for a former Soviet intelligence operative that's turned warlord named Zoran. Zoran wants the treasure of Marco Polo for himself, and he's currently making a militaristic push in Borneo to find the location that the map is pointing everyone to. Nate and Chloe move quickly to Borneo, where they end up dodging Zoran's men, helicopters shooting at them, and many buildings falling apart from destruction going on around them. Eventually, they manage to get into the temple that everyone is looking for in Borneo, and using the artifacts that they've managed to secure, they learn the supposed location of Marco Polo's treasure. And that location is the fabled city of Shambhala, Tibet. They pocket the dagger that is used as a key to the temples, and Nate and Chloe begin to find a way out of Borneo, and it's then that they run into Elena and her cameraman. Apparently, while Nate went on more adventures, Elena decided to go back to journalism and is trying to get the story of Zoran. All 4 of them do try to escape, but eventually Zoran gets them cornered, so Chloe has to turn against Nate so she can protect her cover of working with Harry still. Zoran then tortures Nate to get the location of Shambhala out of him before leaving the room, and with Harry left in the room to kill both Nate and Elena, Elena takes this opportunity to knock Harry off of his footing, and both she and Nate escape. They flee out of the city with a helicopter chasing them, and eventually they steal a jeep and they catch up to Zoran's train. But just as Nate gets to the train and jumps on board, the helicopter shows back up and it begins its assault on Nate again. Nate runs along the train trying to take out Zoran's troops while the helicopter is blowing up bits and pieces of the train behind him. And eventually he makes his way all the way up to the front of the train where he runs into Chloe, who tells him that she's not going to help him anymore. He betrayed her by trying to help Elena and her cameraman, and she cannot trust Nate anymore. So Nate begins to argue with her about her siding with Harry over him, but then Harry enters the room and takes this opportunity to shoot Nate in the stomach. Chloe gets in the way of Harry finishing off Nate as Nate runs through the train trying to escape, and just as he appears to be cornered and done for, he blows up half the train, derailing the entire thing. He pulls himself up the pieces of the train slowly but surely until he reaches the top, and then he passes out. He awakens in a Tibetan village where he discovers that Elena has been waiting for him to recover. And even more interesting is that Nate meets Carl Schaefer, a German explorer who's staying in this village and also looking for Marco Polo's treasure. Nate tries to tell Carl that he's done with his journey, but Carl convinces him to go with a Tibetan guide and learn about this treasure that Marco Polo actually had. The 2 men travel deep into the local caves where Carl went on his own expedition years ago, and what they discover down there are strange monsters that appear to look similar to Yetis, and they discover the true power that the treasure holds. Zoran wants the power of Marco Polo's treasure so that he can rule the world. But just as Nate decides that he's gonna go looking for the treasure again, he looks over a cliff back down on the village that rescued him to find Zoran attacking the village while Nate was in the ice caves. Nate pushes through Zoran's men and he rescues the village, and then he discovers that Carl was kidnapped by Zoran. Realizing that it's entirely up to them to save the day now, Nate and Elena go to the bottom of the monastery where the key was at, and they prepare to open the gateway to Shambhala. But just as they're about to open it, Zoran follows in behind them and demands that they open it for him. And once Nate does that, they all discover that behind the gate are more Yeti-looking monsters. After killing a few of them, Zoran walks over to one of them to remove its mask, and they discover that it's actually a mutated human beneath it. Realizing that they're just up against humans who are living for quite a while, they all walk inside of Shambhala and they discover the treasure in the middle. The treasure is actually the blue sap of a prehistoric tree of life, which grants immortality to those who eat it. The humans in the city have been feasting on it to live forever, and they've become the guardians of the tree. Everyone begins to battle each other, and the guardians all rush for the tree of life. And eventually, Harry manages to corner Nate and Elena, and he kills himself with a grenade, injuring Elena. But realizing Nate needs to stop Zoran from eating the sap, he leaves Elena with Chloe so he can head off to finish this. Zoran and Nate have a crazy battle at the tree itself, until eventually Nate wins the battle and he leaves Zoran there for the Guardians to deal with. Chloe, Nate, and Elena all get out of the city as it explodes and buries itself, and then they all end up back at the Tibetan city. Chloe asks Nate if he loves Elena, to which he doesn't have an answer. So Chloe says her goodbyes, and she leaves the area. Nate and Elena then go to Schaefer's grave to pay their respects, and they embrace, ending this chapter of their great adventure. Now make sure you follow us on Twitter, like I said in the opening, @EligibleMonster, because we'll chat with you about anything over there, and make sure you subscribe to the channel to get the last part of our Uncharted series, because Uncharted 4 is coming out soon, guys. Don't you want to know what happened? I'm Benny for Eligible Monster, and I'll see you guys next time.